Hi, this is Kathleen from Sunny Mountain Patterns. Here's my Etsy shop, shameless plug. It's Sunny Mountain Pattern without an S because I'm silly. I'm going to show you how to do a full bust adjustment or an FBA digitally on Inkscape because I know a lot of people are trying to do this on the projector and they're having a hard time because usually most tutorials are for paper patterns. Since we don't have that when we have a projector, this is how to do it digitally. So I've already made a 200 by 200 square inch page on Inkscape. If you don't know how to do that, you can refer to one of my other videos, but briefly it's going to be File, Document Properties, and then you just change the custom size here, and then you just close. Not a problem. So I'm going to zoom in by pressing Control and using my mouse wheel forward while I'm holding Control. So I've already imported my bodice and did some slight adjustments to get rid of some of the layers I don't need. This is only one size, it's size to me. And I have this bodice that's together here. By the way, you can press Shift, hold Shift and hit the scroll wheel forward and backwards. Will move left and right. And then of course, regular scroll will move up and down. So I need this bodice to be separated. I want the front bodice. Now, if you're familiar with full bust adjustments, it's usually you're taking the high bust measurement, so around above your bust, around the back, and using that as your bust diameter to figure out what size you should be wearing. I'm hourglass shaped, so my waist is actually much smaller than my bust. And then taking your actual bust measurement, which is right at the peak, around and figuring out what the difference between those two are. So say I have a full 2-inch difference between my high bust and my full bust. I'm not saying that I do because I haven't actually measured myself. I'm going to have to do a adjustment based off those 2 inches. Now, the math part, which is really not that hard. You have two sides to your body. We're changing the diameter, which goes all the way around. Well, we're assuming the back does not need to get changed at all, only the front. So if we have a 2-inch difference for left and right sides, it's only going to be a 1/2 inch if we do half of the bust, which I suggest we do. So let's get started. We're going to ungroup this because you can see that all 4 pieces are together. You go to Object and Ungroup. Now they should have, as soon as it figures out what to do, it should have dashed lines around everything. Sometimes it doesn't do it. Sometimes you have to do it twice. Ungroup, there we go. Now we have dashed lines. So here, this is just the way I drafted this because it was just for me. I normally wouldn't have this drafted this way for a actual for sale pattern, just to let you know. I had original lines, and then the outset is my stitching line, so I have my seam allowance, but normally I won't show the inner stitching line. I would just have the seam allowance already built in. So we're going to use the right hand side. I want to move all of these pieces, and the way that this Inkscape imported my pieces was entirely that this are 2 separate pieces, but when I drafted them, they were one total piece together. It's just the way Inkscape imports PDF. By the way, Curvy Gal was my source for doing these process. She does it on paper, so I just converted this over to digital. So on this side, I have all these points here. It actually might be easier to use this. Anyway. It says group 1, and I'm only clicking on this. I do not want to say group. I want to ungroup this until it says so many nodes, because I need the nodes. So I'm going to ungroup it one more time and say path 26 nodes. So I need a path because that's the SVG, the scalable vector graphic. So there's actually 2 ways of doing it. I'm going to do this the easier way that requires less remembering which path item to use, which, if I can remember this. Oh yeah, look at that magnifier. Ooh, that's really big. Which one of these to use? we're going to use the Bezier pen, which is going to be over here. This guy right here. So the Bezier pen is basically anchors points, and then you can have curves based off of how you how big the radius of the curve is and where the curve intersects or I can't remember the word now, it's too early in the morning. But I'll show you. So we can do a tracing by clicking on the points I have up here in the right hand corner. Oh my gosh, I'm super loving this highlight. This magnifying all the way over here. This button that I'm pointing at, that enables snapping to your points. So that's actually what we want to have on. So if you click and drag, you can see how these little tiny handles show up. Unfortunately, I can't zoom on that when I'm clicking and dragging, but that will indicate both the radius, see how much fatter this gets in the light red line. I apologize if you are colorblind. But you can also see how the angle of the curve changes. So that's what you want, is to match the angle of the curve with the neckline as much as possible, and then unclick and then press enter. That was terrible, by the way. I was doing this quickly. So that's basically how it works. So if you just want a straight line, you just click one spot and then the other spot, it's a straight line without clicking and dragging. If you want, I'm going to undo this by pressing Control Z. If you want it perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical, you hold Control as you click, and it'll keep it perfectly horizontal. Now, I didn't press enter, so my points are going to connect to each other. I am sorry if you already are familiar with how a Bezier pen works, but I'm not sure how everybody is operating. So actually, I want to get rid of this point because it's going to throw off my my points. So let's set up our guidelines first, add a layer for working on, and then work on actually doing the full bust adjustment. So I'm going to go to the Bezier pen, which is the one on the left-hand side. And we have a few points we need to start off from. So in the middle of my dart, which I have two different size darts, I was just playing around with making adjustable. We need to know where the bust point is, which is usually going to be the intersection of the dart. So you can actually, no, that didn't work. I'm going to have to turn off this intersect because it's, maybe I need a line intersect. So this button right here, the snap path to intersections and snap path to lines, I lost it. It's one of these. Will actually snap your path to the line or to the intersection rather than just the points. So I might not necessarily have a anchor point in the middle here, but this is where I want to snap to. So I want this to be perfectly vertical. So you can actually hold Control and then come all the way up. We're just putting guidelines down for now. And then I want another one from the dart point here to the center. So I actually want to find the intersect. Oh, I'm not holding Control, my bad. So I actually want to go through this and then just hold it as long as this is highlighted, as close to possible. And then press enter. And then I have a third guideline I want to do, which is going to be up to about a third of the way on this arm side curve from the bust point. So let me make sure that, oh, that's horrible. I'm going to have to fix this. So on the left-hand corner, I'm going to use the edit path by notes. And I'm going to modify this path to intersect this line. So these are just guides for now. Okay, I need to go lower. These are just guides. I just want it to go through, I'll make these thicker, but I just want the guides to go through the arm side, through the bust point, through the points of the 2 darts. I don't need the top part, I just needed it so I can go up, straight up and down. I'm going to make these bigger. I just go to Object, Fill and Stroke. I have all 3 highlighted. And the stroke style, I'm going to change it to points because that's what I like to work in. And I'll do like 4 points. And let's go ahead and change the color. So I can either go to Stroke Paint, something easy for me to see. 4 points, yep, okay. That didn't change anything. Now that we're talking about it. Sometimes it doesn't like me. I'm just gonna, you can come down here and press Shift. It's a bit bright, so we have our 3 that are highlighted. I can make them dashed, whatever. It might make it easier actually for people who are colorblind or can't see contrast that well. Let's make this dashed. I'm going to make it super thick just so it's easy to see. So that's the points that we need. Now we need to put a layer on top of this. You can of course work on the same layer, but I feel like it's a little bit tricky because then you'll start accidentally grabbing the points, the anchor points, which are all of these little diamonds. I think if I can zoom in, yeah, they look like diamonds here. It's the same thing down here. These are all, these gray points are all anchor points. So you don't want to touch those because you don't want to actually accidentally grab the original one. So we're going to add another layer by going to Layer, which is here, and add a layer, which we're going to go here, and I'm going to relabel that as FBA above the current one, which is Layer 1. So I'm going to go ahead and go back down to the bottom. Let's see if this works. Click on that down arrow and change over to Layer 1. And then I'm going to lock that layer. So nothing I do to it will change it, but I want to leave the eye open as visible so I can still see it. Now I'm going to click back and change back to FBA. So you can think of layers as the same thing as if you had transparencies stacked on top of each other, as if you're doing art with tracing paper, for example. You know, the bottommost layer, if you have a layer on top of it, you can't touch it if it's locked. The only difference is digitally, you can touch layers that are unlocked, even if there's a layer on top of it. It's just you're switching to the next layer. It's like you taped down the layer and you can't switch to the layer below it, is what locking essentially is. That's a brief overview. So we're gonna go ahead and build these shapes using the Bezier pen. There are ways to copy and paste and then do some slicing, which I might do in a different video, but this is the quick and dirty without having to remember which one to use. So just use the Bezier pen. I should emphasize this is of course for your own personal use unless you're the designer yourself. Now there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either click very daintily about here to make that curve. I do not like doing it that way, but I will show you what happens. Let me make that a little bit thicker. Going to Object, Fill and Stroke. There you go, super thin. I want to make this a different color so it's easier for me to see. I'm not going to make it dashed because it's going to be a little hard. So you see how here it is very rough. It's not smooth. That's easy to solve, don't worry. You go up. Okay, sorry. I'm going to press F2, or you can come up here and click on this button that's already highlighted, or double click. Click on these, all of these points that are not smooth, by pressing Shift and clicking. I think I only had 4 points. Yes. Go all the way to the top and you see these 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons. You want the make selection smooth. Now we can adjust this by grabbing the points and moving them. Control Z. No, it's not what I wanted. I want to unclick, sorry. I only want to grab one point at a time. And then you can move the handles slightly. This is hard to, okay, you know what? This is hard to do magnified, by the way. So let's get out of that. Or you can, of course, zoom in and do this. I just wanted you to see the handles. It's hard to see because they're very tiny, especially on a laptop screen. I packed my monitor already. That's a pretty good approximation. Perfect doesn't have to be perfect, or rather, perfect's not necessary, especially if you're just doing it for yourself. So you can do that, or you can do the click and drag, which I showed you earlier, which is you set up your line, and you click here, and you click and drag, and you try to approximate the size of the neckline or the curve, which I will actually do for the arm scythe. So the thing is, here, anytime there's a drastically deeper curve, you might want to put an inflection point or an anchor point. But you remember how we set up these guidelines, the green dashed lines? We are going to use that as our cutting, but we're going to make the cuts ourselves by making puzzle pieces, which we're going to do now. So we're actually going to anchor here. I have to zoom out, unfortunately, so I can set up the line. Anchor here, click and drag until it's approximate. Press enter because we don't want to be clicking and dragging anymore. That's pretty dang good. What do I do? 7, 5? I don't know. Make that shift right. And we're gonna click on click on the end point. So what's gonna look like is when we hover over it, it'll turn bright red and get bigger, the box. That's what you want to indicate that you're grabbing that anchor point. They're not going to be two separate points. Oops. Press the wrong button. So here, I want to grab the anchor point. There. And then come to this, the bust point, and then go straight down. Straight across, grab that corner, and then straight back up to finish. Enter. That should have finished it. Something's not right. So when I say something's not right, I mean, I didn't attach well enough. I'll have to fix that. But for now, oh, Lord, I need to stop pressing the stupid wrong button. For now, you can see how there's two separate points. They're not attached to each other. That's a problem. So I'm gonna have to redo this, which I'll redo this in a second. In Illustrator, there's a way to join these two, but in Inkscape, if there is a way to join the two, I haven't found it. Maybe union will work. Nope, that didn't work. Not at all. So I'll show you why this is a problem. So if we were to fill, if I could just stop pressing the wrong button, if we were to fill these two objects just by clicking on some random color, you can see where they're not connected to, oh, because I missed this whole section here, that's why. Let me try this again. But you can see where there's a problem where the fill, this is the extent of the, oh, yeah, this is the extent of the design. I didn't catch this side either. That's quite annoying. So it didn't highlight. It's my fault. So you want to make sure that that red highlights. Okay. Get the Bezier pen again. Hopefully you're following along, so my making mistakes will help you as well. So the Bezier pen does not like me. Or rather, I don't think it likes when I highlight. Okay. Let me try highlighting it and then clicking the Bezier. Ah, there we go. So you can see here, now that I clicked on the original path that I want to attach to, now it's got that end. Don't worry about this edge thing. I just did it so it looks nicer when I sew. Okay, I'm going to go here to the path node and then click and drag to match the curve. Press enter. Ooh, see how it's filling up? Now I know that I've definitely got these all attached. It highlighted again. We're going to go to the bust point, come down, hit the bottom. So this is our first shape. This is the shape that is stationary. And then click up here, press. Oh, that didn't work. What? Sometimes it doesn't like to work. And you have to press Control Z. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, there we go. And this is why people prefer the other way, because sometimes it doesn't listen. So the beige peach color is our stationary piece. These two pieces are going to move until this end needs to get brought down, but we don't actually have to do the cut like what's shown on paper because we can do it digitally. So we're going to move this piece and this piece, but we have to create the pieces. So now we're going to do the Bezier pen. And you can start wherever you like. But I'm going to trace this piece here, the last part of the under curve. That's pretty dang good. I'm going to make it a different color and then make it chunky. So this is a green color. If you're red-green colorblind like my dad, just believe me. With that still highlighted, we're going to get the Bezier pen, make sure it highlights and makes a bigger square. And then you can either choose to do this point and then this point, or just that point. I'm going to go to the intersection and then close it up. So I'm actually going to highlight that. Oh, wrong color. I just click on it so you can see the piece. You might want to put another point here. That's up to you. I don't see a difference other than when you're actually making it. So the second piece that I need, points. Let's go set this as, I don't know, what color can we make it? Bright blue, I guess. And then fill it in. Ooh, these back colors are very clashing. So this is just for illustrative points, is to show the pieces. So this beige piece here is stationary. This moves and this moves. What we're going to do is set up a guideline. So we're going to grab a square. Does not matter. I'm going to change the thickness to 1 point just so it's not uber thick. We want this to be the 1 inch, right? Remember I said presumably there's a 2-inch difference between my high bust and my actual bust diameter. This is half of my front bust, so half of 2 is 1. It's really easy to set up. So you click on after you've made it, or when you make it, you'll see the width and the height are millimeters. I'm going to change this to inches first. If you are working in millimeters, yay. And just type in 1. It doesn't matter the height. I would just make it kind of about this height. Now, we want to move this here and probably change the color so that I can actually see. You can change these back without fill. It doesn't, by going all the way to the left, scrolling down this, here. I just figured out how to do this highlighting thing. So this scroll bar down here, just move all the way to the left, and you see this X with the red X. Yay, click that. Just figured out how to do the magnifying, so super excited to use it. So what we want to do is grab these two pieces. We have to do these at the same time. We have to guesstimate how much to rotate both. Normally what you would do is have this cut here, and then all you would do is rotate at this pivot point up in this corner here where I'm circling, and the bottom piece would just naturally kind of pivot down into place. We don't have that luxury here. So we're going to estimate how far to pivot these two pieces. We're going to pivot up here, but we grab both by pressing Shift and clicking on one line, and Shift and hold the other line that we want to convert. Click a second time, you'll see how these handles come up. But right here in the middle, which is entirely the reason why I wanted the highlighting, is going to be this crosshatch. So when you grab the crosshatch, we're going to move it all the way to the upper left-hand corner. Mostly the upper left-hand corner where that cut is. So now we're going to grab one of these handles, not these straight across handles, which you can see here. So not this one, because that's going to skew it like this, and it's not going to be right. We just want to rotate, which is going to be these rotation handles on the corners. Doesn't matter which one you grab. I'm just going to grab, let's say this one, and you'll see how it's how the piece is rotating. Okay. The other problem is I have snap-on the left-hand corner. Let's get rid of that. Let's turn that off, because it's just going to irritate you. It's going to continue to snap where you want. So from experience of doing this, trying this out a couple of times, I know that I have to go a little bit beyond this width to get this piece to rotate down. So the second piece we're going to do is click just on this lower piece. Click a second time. Now we need to move the cross hatch, which it shows where the rotation center is, over here. Okay, so over to this corner, because we're just moving this piece. So we want this piece to be basically parallel. Okay, I lied. It's a little less than just over. So you can either choose to Control Z, which I would do, and then shift this piece and then move the crosshatch by clicking and dragging back up to its original spot. We overcompensated here. I'm gonna rotate it. Oh, for good Lord. Quick. Rotate a little bit. That might be good. Just click this, click a second time, and then we have to move this piece over. And now we're gonna rotate this till it's approximately parallel. And there you go. Now, normally when you watch videos on paper, they would cut this piece and move this entire rectangle down, but it's just a rectangle, so really all you have to do is, you don't even have to do this, by the way. Just make a rectangle. Oh, sorry. And just move it down till it's parallel, but you don't have to do that because we can just go straight across. Got a little interruption for my 5-year-old. So now that we have moved all of these over, I'm not even sure that's the right width, honestly. I think I messed that up. No, that's 1 inch. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and trace this around so that we have a complete smooth piece, which you certainly can use this piece. Or if you really want to be fancy, go down. So here's one way to do it. You can go down to layer 1. If you don't care to preserve the original, I suggest you do, by the way. Go down to layer 1, unlock it. Now we're gonna, let's go up to layer, the FBA. Lock that so we don't accidentally mess that up. Go down to layer 1, it's unlocked now. You can see here. It's unlocked, the little latch is unlocked. And we're gonna grab these two pieces by clicking on here. Oh, this might be a bit problematic, mostly because you see how many pieces, how many nodes Inkscape decided to give us. So if we move this, we're going to have to move all of these nodes. Oh, what a pain in the butt. I'm going to delete that. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. So that one of the solutions would be to move these up and match the pieces, which if it didn't have so many nodes would not have been such a bad thing. Oh, baby got up. Problem is, got a bunch of nodes. But the great thing, oops. Oh, there's 2 nodes there. I might want to delete this one. If this is just a straight line, not a problem. So if this happens and you accidentally delete, you can probably Control Z and undelete that. Or if I could just do this real quick before the baby starts crying, grab these handles and pull it down. So basically it's got no curve. Same thing with this one. Unless you want a curve, then you leave it. And then we curve this down slightly and this down slightly, up, make that flat. So the other option to make this flat, and this does not work very well in Inkscape, Illustrator, is see how this curves? Just align this and we're done. And then what we're going to do is extend out these dart lines. Now, this is, of course, and then you can actually make this piece, these two, the same level. You can either eyeball it by grabbing it and moving it, or I'm going to actually make this smaller. Or the guaranteed way is to click both by pressing Shift and clicking the both and going to Object and where is it? Align and Distribute, which is this button. So we're going to go to Align and Distribute, and you actually want Distribute. Let me get out of there. Sometimes it's a little irritating. I gotta move this. Here we go. The Distribute. Oh, not Distribute, sorry, Align. And you want them to be the baseline, which is going to be here. This one. If it could just stop embarrassing me in front of my friends at work, that'd be lovely. I might not have clicked on the correct piece. So it's last selected, and it doesn't want to cooperate today. Lovely. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, we're on nodes. So anchor points are nodes, which is going to be the lower part here. I'll highlight it into here. We want this one, align selected. Now, if it would work, yes, that would be lovely. But for some reason, okay, let's try that. Selected. Okay, it's supposed to work. We're just going to pretend it worked. I'm super not happy with it. Sometimes this program doesn't listen. And then you're done, right? So you can actually go down to switch to FBA layer and hide it. And now you can see the newly changed bust adjustment. Shift. With the exception it's a little squiggly here because I messed that up. However, if you don't want to do that, say you want to preserve the layer, you can copy the original and move it up to the FBA layer. I'll just press Control C to copy and do Object and sorry, not Illustrator. I don't need to do that. I can change to the FBA layer, unhide it, unlock it, and Control V. While the FBA layer down here on the lower left-hand side is indicated. And you can actually do it this way by tracing, or make a whole layer on top of that. You already know how to do that. The other way to do this is to trace around these pieces without that weird squiggly. So I'm sorry for all of the squiggling. My editor's broken. My video editor's broken, so I can't remove all of this parts. Yay me! So the other part is to trace once again everything, all the points. So much fun, by the way. You can see, I hope it's probably pretty faint. Basically like this, ish. I'll fill it in so you can see that's basically what it's gonna look like. So the other issue here is, I'm gonna go back to the bottom layer, layer 1, is that when you do a full bust adjustment, oftentimes your bust point will move. So you might want to actually measure where your bust point is to figure out where your dart point should be pointing to. It's probably going to move slightly if you do on this side of the garment, of the pattern. It's probably going to move a little to the left and probably a little bit down. So you actually probably want to measure yourself, which I would recommend from mid-shoulder. You see where my strap is, down to your bust point. Figure out what that height is. And then from the middle to where your bust point is. So we can do 2 lines. Line 1 would be here. Hold Control so it's completely flat. Just press and click. I'm going to bulk that up so you can see. Object, fill in stroke. Now we can make this the length you want. So say, I think I wrote this down. 10 inches, I think. I did this slightly different when I actually, so let's make this 10 inches long. And we just want to move this down to this point, and then say we want to do the other from horizontal, right? And say that is going to be, first off, make that super thick. Say that's 3.5 inches in from the center. So we just have to make that 3.5 inches wide. So you can see here, the bust point in this completely made up bust point measurement has moved somewhat significantly. So it would be here, and then we would redraw these darts by clicking on it or clicking on the edit paths. So we want it to go to this point, but we don't want to go all the way to it, or else you have pointy, you have a pointy thing. Okay, so in this case, we're going to have to move the entire dart legs itself over, because we can't just move the point. Oh, didn't want to move the guideline. So we're just moving the entire dart till it lines up here. You can do this more accurately by extending the line if you like, but I'm lazy. So I just like to eyeball it. As long as it's even on both sides, unless you want it super, super fitted. It's not super critical if you're like a 1/4 inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch off. I know I'm probably going to be hearing about it from some people. Oh, definitely makes a difference. Trust me, when I sew, it doesn't make a difference. So that's just to make sure that it goes to the dart point. That they're both going to point towards the dart point. Just make sure it's like an inch, half an inch off from the actual dart point, or else you're going to have 80s Madonna cone fronts. And unless you want that look, that's how you do not do it. Okay. So we can get rid of all these guidelines, or you can keep them for your own edification. Pretend I fixed this over here. Now all we have to do is go ahead and either copy this or leave this if you like to have it unfolded. I will show you how to do that. You highlight everything. We're going to group these because the dart points are separate. Just press Control G. And then you can Control C and then Control V. It'll paste wherever your arrow pointer is, and then press, I think V. No, H. We'll flip it horizontally. And now we have a mirrored image. That's how you do the full bust adjustment. If it doesn't work out, I'm not great at problem solving these because I draft my own patterns. So I do it myself. Hold on. So that's how you do a full bust adjustment. And that's only with 2 darts. It's a little harder to do with 1 dart. With a dartless, just make it wider. That's my answer. So I hope this helps. If you want to print this out so you can use it for Projector, you go ahead and go to File, Save As, and then save it as a PDF by typing in whatever name you want, and then clicking down to the PDF, the document file, which is probably going to be about 5 down, and then save that. And that's it. That's how to do a full bust PDF. If I could just stop pressing that stupid button. This is Kathleen from Sunny Mountain Patterns. Just to mention, this pattern, I don't do adult patterns just yet. If you're watching this just after I made this video, so this is not available. This is only for me. I'm sorry. But I mean, if you're really interested in the pattern, let me know. I know it's worth it for my time to go ahead and convert and test and fit for everybody else for all the different sizes. I'm size 14, by the way. I'm not proud of that. But I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, don't ask me. I'm not the person to ask. So let me know if you like the video. Thanks.